The new Laker, LeBron James, will not participate in USA Basketball's minicamp in Las Vegas next week. ESPN reported earlier Monday. The two-time Olympic gold medalist was in Vegas over the weekend to watch his Lakers in the NBA Summer League, but will not be present for the camp set for July 25th to 27th. Hey everybody, welcome back into our NBA TV studios. It's game time. I'm Kristen Ledlow alongside our David Griffin, who was most recently the general manager of the Cleveland Cavaliers. So LeBron, La La Land, has it sunk in yet?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I think it was sort of a foregone conclusion, to at least going through the process, if he wasn't going to be in Cleveland, that's where he would end up. I think from the very beginning, as soon as Kentavious Caldwell-Pope signed his deal the previous year in Los Angeles, that gave Rich Paul an opportunity to get to know Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka in a different way, to understand exactly where that franchise was heading. I think that was really significant to them being able to know exactly what the Lakers were all about ahead of time. I kind of call that legalized tampering as well, because when you have a player who is with an agent and they're raving about an organization, that really resonates, and it's a meaningful thing. But the fit in Los Angeles is fascinating to me with the pieces they've subsequently added. I think it's going to take some time, but the thing that stood out the most was he gave him a 4-year contract.
Right.
Which is absolutely essential, because now they don't have to chase each individual season one at a time, each title one at a time. They can build in a mindful, sustainable way, and I think long-term that will be better for LeBron.
Well, with perhaps a bit less fanfare than the regular season, will undoubtedly demand the Lakers and Cavs faced off in the Final Four at the NBA Summer League in Las Vegas. The top-seeded Lakers played host to the 12th-seeded Cavs. That's Colin Sexton, and he was everything for the Cavs in this one. Josh Hart driving, spinning, laying it in, gets it to go from outside as well. He finished with 37 in this one, Griff.
Yeah, and the thing that you love about Josh Hart, he's all summer league long. He's played at a level very few have in terms of understanding winning plays. He had 37 points, but he was plus 12 tonight. Colin Sexton, 27 points, he was a minus 10. It takes some time to figure out how to actually make the difference in winning and losing.
That was Mikhailuk with 31 in this one as well, with the shot clock winding down, but Colin Sexton pulling up and gets it to go. He had 27 points in this one. That would tie things up at 98 apiece. We had to go to an overtime period, and let's just fast forward to that second overtime period. Jeff Ayers for the dunk, putting LA up 108 to 106 and 10 seconds to go here. Scoochie Smith to Billy Preston for, wait, is this a double pump?
That's a double
three?
clutch.
Yeah.
That's exactly how they drew it up, no question. And this one he misses because he doesn't double pump.
That's why. That had to be what happened. The Lakers go on to win at 112 to 109, which means that they will advance. And the regular season is still nearly 100 days away. I actually counted, but the offseason has given us plenty to talk about. So as currently constructed, how far can that Lakers team go?
Yeah, I really think that it's a 46-win team, somewhere in there. I think the reason that they're going to struggle a little bit to advance multiple rounds in the playoffs, that Western Conference is loaded. You got 14 of the 15 best players from last year's NBA regular season in wins above replacement, all in the Western Conference. So, yes, there is expectation when LeBron James is on your team that you are automatically a finals contender. But I think the more pragmatic approach to looking at this Laker team is, are they building towards that? Can they reasonably expect that if they add the right piece the following offseason, so 1 year from now, are they then really a finals contender? And I think LeBron giving them multiple years and putting as much as he has into helping them build this team tells you that he's all in on the concept of having multiple playmakers around him.
Right.
But playoff LeBron needs multiple shooters and a lot more floor spacing than they have. So it'll be interesting.
So have you been surprised by the signings since his commitment, since he reportedly has a say in all of it?
I was surprised only because, again, it's one thing to think that you're going to put several playmakers on the court to take burden off of him in the regular season, and I think that's actually brilliant. The problem is, in order to get the full bandwidth of what LeBron is capable of in the playoffs, he's going to have the ball. He's the most efficient play creator in the NBA. And what you need around him to give him the opportunity to really operate is play terminators. And they've got a multitude of play creators that are not floor spacing shooters. So it'll be really interesting to see how that all kind of coalesces. I think Brandon Ingram's going to need to take a quantum leap forward for that team to be special good, because he has the kind of skill set that can really fit with LeBron very well. He's just got to grow into his body and get a little more comfortable with contact.
Well, last season's Lakers were 11th in the Western Conference with 35 total wins. And on average, LeBron-led teams get 16 wins better the season that he arrives than they were the previous season. So if that number remains true, that would put the Lakers in third in the Western Conference with 51 total wins. Meanwhile, the Cavaliers finished fourth in the Eastern Conference with 50 wins last season and went on to the NBA Finals. I see you have a point here.
So the thing that numbers can say anything you want them to, right?
Which is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
I'm trying to force you into saying what I...
So, I mean, I think realistically, sure, he's on average gone up 16 wins because he was doing it in the Eastern Conference. And each year, it's been a historically bad Eastern Conference relative to its ability to put a finals contender forward that's supposed to win. When we won the championship, it was a complete upset in the way that we did it. But I think when Miami won their titles, maybe that was something that was expected. But again, the Eastern Conference is nothing like the Western Conference gauntlet relative to a regular season, and that's where your wins are coming from.
Are the Cavaliers then still a playoff team in the East without him?
I think that one's going to really come down to whether or not come trade deadline they decide they want to be a playoff team. I think they certainly have the makings of a team that could be. I think Kevin Love is going to be very similar to what he was in Minnesota, but now he understands what it takes to win at a really high level. Kevin is a much better winner today than he ever was, and he credits LeBron for a great deal of that. You saw when LeBron left, Kevin was more than willing to show love to LeBron.
Pun intended.
Oh my goodness,
I
did not do that on purpose. But he was more than willing to share with Kevin or with LeBron and with everybody else how important he had been for Kevin. So I think you're getting the best version of Kevin Love there's ever been. They know how to run through him. He led the Cavs in 15-point first quarters during the time that he and LeBron were together. And what would happen is very often you would just go away from him, because LeBron or Kyrie, when he was there, had it rolling.
Right.
Now they're going to need to go through Kevin. I think Colin Sexton has been very, very good in Summer League. Playing a role he's going to need to play with the varsity. So that's important because he's been a ball-dominant play creator. He's been a competitive warrior. He's been the kind of guy that wins games for you. I like a little bit of what they have going on. I just think it's really going to depend on whether or not they choose to augment the group or choose to protect their pick that they have going out if it's 10 or worse.
Well,
or 10 or later.
Later, yes, right. And it doesn't necessarily mean worse, right? Not always. But the Summer League
Not
final...
if you get Donovan Mitchell.
That's right. At 13? Are you kidding me? Well, the Final Four continued in Vegas. The second-seeded Blazers taking on the 27th-seeded Grizzlies. Tournament play, by the way, began with 30 total teams. That was Archie Goodwin, Summer League's all-time leading scorer. Now, earlier on Monday, Mark Stein of the New York Times reported the Philadelphia 76ers had been denied in their attempt to hire away Houston's general manager Daryl Morey as their new GM. Stein reported Morey couldn't be lured away from the Rockets. Morey has been with the team since 2006 and was named GM in 2007. So speaking of the Rockets, after the break, the free agent fever continues on GameTime with notable names still available. Then what's next for Clint Capella? There are notable names still remaining on this offseason's free agent list. Clint Capella, Marcus Smart, and Rodney Hood are all restricted free agents, while Dwayne Wade and Jamal Crawford are unrestricted. Capella reportedly turned down a 5-year, $85 million contract offer from Houston last week, and he's seeking a contract in the $100 million range. Because he is restricted, the Rockets are able to match any offer sheet he receives from another team. So at this point, what's taking so long, and are the Rockets still the right fit for Clint?
Well, I think they're definitely the right fit, and I think Marcus and Clint have both suffered from the fact that there was so little cap space available and so few suitors that really could have put a big offer on the table. But for different reasons, teams haven't done that. In the Clint Capella situation, Houston really has to have him and would really almost be forced to match any offer for him, especially given that they've lost Bamute and Trevor Ariza. He's really a one-man wrecking ball defensively for them. They're switch happy. He's one of the best bigs in the league, maybe the very best at switching out on the wings and protecting the rim. His ability to give them vertical spacing is critical to everything they do. And because there's so much cap space next year, I understand why Clint is going to be very judicious in signing a deal, because he could very possibly get a full max deal next year. So he doesn't have a lot of incentive to sign a below market deal now. Marcus Smart's a little different situation. Marcus is a guy who, because he is greater than the sum of his parts as a winner, that's really his skill set. Only the best teams truly benefit from what Marcus Smart is. If you're going to benefit from the full bandwidth of this guy, you need to be playing for something meaningful. You need to be playing meaningful playoff games, because his ability to dominate a fourth quarter when it matters the most, he's almost like a throwback to when Manu was a young player. He plays his biggest and best moments in the biggest moments of a game. But if you're not going to be playing in those moments, you're going to talk a lot more about what he can't do. He's not a great shooter. He's not a true point guard. He doesn't really have a position in a lot of ways, but he guards all of them. So he's such an unusual piece, it makes it very difficult. It's very similar to what we went through with Matthew Dellavedova when he was restricted. Super valuable to us. We knew he wasn't going to get a really large offer, and you hope that you can find a common ground where you can sign him to a long-term deal, because if Boston is in the same situation that Houston will be, and they're going into a space environment where they're competing for Marcus Smart, could be very difficult to keep him moving forward.
And Smart could also accept the team's $6.1 million qualifying offer and then become an unrestricted free agent next summer. Meanwhile, Jimmy Butler has turned down a 4-year extension with the Minnesota Timberwolves, reportedly worth $100 million. Now, it's not the first time that Butler has gambled on himself. He did the same prior to the 2014-15 season, turning down a 4-year deal worth close to $44 million. It paid off. As you may remember, he went on to win the NBA's Most Improved Player award the following season and signed a max extension worth more than $90 million, not just $90. It
More
was a few
than 90.
extra than 90. I would have signed that.
He turned down an awful lot of money.
But next season's free agency class is also star-studded. Jimmy is set to be joined by Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson. How, though, Griff, is this offseason's free agency affecting next year's class?
Well, because that class is so star-laden and because there is so much cap space, you could have as many as 20, 21 teams with the ability to create maximum cap space. And some teams have been very mindful and judicious and could create 2 max cap spots. The Clippers being one of them, Brooklyn being another. They've done a really good job of planning for that crop and for that class. So because of that, there's going to be a lot of things that have happened. One, free agents aren't getting paid this summer because people are keeping their powder dry to some degree. The other thing that may happen is you may see that tax teams have a very difficult time finding a home for future money to get away from it, because nobody wants to tie up that cap space because it is a coveted free agent class.
So do you think then the landscape of the league will look entirely different, similar to this offseason?
Well, I certainly think Kawhi, Kyrie, I think to a lesser degree Jimmy Butler, those are all guys that you can look at and think might be looking at potentially teaming up somewhere. And USA Basketball, which starts their training camp July 25th, is a really meaningful period of time for every team hoping to land star free agents, because this is where legalized tampering takes place. And if you're going to, A, know that Kawhi Leonard is healthy, you're going to see him there. And B, if you're going to have your stars start to build what they hope is their future together, you need to have the template of cap space for them to do it. So it's really meaningful if you're sitting there on max cap space for 2 players right now, because you go into that Team USA training camp with the ability to sort of cajole people in that direction.
Cajole, there's your word of the day. So after the break, the rookie we're still talking about, despite having not seen him make his professional debut, get to know Luka Doncic next.
He's good.